Welcome to Rock Docs, a podcast about movies about music. This is a special kind of bonus episode. This is David Lizerbram, and I'm here with my co-host,
Andrew Keatts, and we are joined today by Christine Vachon. She is the producer behind the truly amazing documentary that just came out a couple weeks ago, The Velvet Underground, which is streaming on Apple Plus. And which I watched about a week ago, David, and I have not really stopped thinking about since then.
Yeah, this is not your kind of standard run-of-the-mill rock doc, which stipulating that Andy and I love your standard run-of-the-mill rock doc. That's not a slam on that apex of cinematic form. However, it's really something interesting. I definitely recommend anybody who's listening to this, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. I think it's also playing in some limited theaters as well for people who want to go outside. But Christine has produced for the last 25, 30 years, so many acclaimed indie movies. If you go to her Wikipedia or IMDb page, you'll see, it's just like an endless list of classics. So we were really excited to get to talk to her. It's going to come up in just a minute. Andy, anything people need to know before they kind of, or set the scene here before people listen to this?
I don't think so, but we are going to, just for some housekeeping, we are going to do a full episode on Velvet Underground later on in the season. We had an opportunity to interview Christine, so we wanted to get this out quickly while the movie is still very much in the zeitgeist. So watch the movie and tune back in later on in the season, and we will do our full exhaustive rundown. But in the meantime, we wanted to talk to Christine about some of the process of making it, how she got on board. If you haven't seen it yet, once you do, you'll see that it is sort of an exhilarating experience to watch it. The way they've presented it is just full of material, and it really is as much about Andy Warhol and the factory and the avant-garde art scene in 60s New York as much as it is about Lou Reed and the music of the Velvet Underground. So it's quite an achievement. There's a lot to it that we want to get into, but first we wanted to talk to Christine about how she went about making it and sort of the role of a producer in a project like this.
Okay, so without further ado, here is our interview with Christine Vachon. Christine, welcome to Rock Docs. This is a podcast where we talk about music documentaries, and of course, we've brought you on to discuss the Velvet Underground documentary. So first of all, congratulations on that, because it's just really, it's really something. We watch a lot of music documentaries, and this one's pretty special.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
I guess I'll go first. We're just going to kind of jump back and forth, but
Sure.
Just wanted to, first of all, get a sense from you of kind of how this project got started. How do you even, who approaches who, and how does the concept of making this kind of documentary get started?
Well, I was originally approached by David Blackman at the Universal Music Group, which, has been working over the past few years, I believe. I hate to use this word, but to sort of synergize their library, and find directors willing to take on, specific music documentaries, and really kind of exploit their library, right? So he approached me and asked me if Todd Haynes would be interested in doing something with the Velvet Underground. Now, I think the difference here, for example, Ron Howard did one on the Beatles. The real difference here is we were talking about a band that, as we all know, certainly never had the kind of fame or fortune that the Beatles had. So I think it was really, I think that David saw something in it and saw something in its potential, and in its potential, especially in Todd's hands, that was pretty great. So I just went to Todd, and I knew, Todd likes a challenge. He likes to do things he hasn't done before. And this was before we shot his last feature film, Dark Waters. And so he thought about it. He came back, and he really kind of wanted to make sure that he would be able to do something truly innovative. And I said, that's the reason they asked you. We hooked up pretty quickly with a documentary production company called Motto, which is Julie Goldman, Chris Clements, and Carolyn Hepburn. Sorry, obvious mistake. And they were really instrumental because, it's not my area of expertise whatsoever, documentary, and it's not Todd's either. And we had a lot of questions about how you go about getting the material you need, and how do you get people to talk to you, and all those kinds of things. So sorry, that might have been a little longer winded than you wanted, but that's how it began.
No, that's fantastic. And actually, I want to follow up on what you just said here. I mean, the film is like an exhilarating and at times almost overwhelming experience with just how much material is on the screen at any time. And when I wasn't transfixed by it, I was sort of thinking to myself, what a massive undertaking it must have been to wrangle all of this archival footage. So you mentioned there that wasn't really, your bailiwick coming into this project. So how much of that were you involved in, and was it as like Herculean a task as I'm imagining it was?
I was not involved in finding the archive in any way whatsoever. We had two great researchers, and they really, and bear in mind also, we got the film to a certain point, and then the pandemic happened, and Todd was really able to then spend the next year really refining and deep diving and adjusting the images, and the sound and everything. So that I think the fact that he was able to have his, really have his fingers completely in it, and his other film was done, really made a big difference.
Yeah, it kind of leads into the next question, which was, if you're doing a fictional type of feature film like you've done so many of them in the past, it's kind of to some extent easy to sort of picture from an outside position what a producer does. You hire actors and you work with people who are going to build sets and all these kind of things.
Correct.
What was your role on this? What was your expectation of what the role was going to be, and did it change?
I figured it would be, documentary still requires production, just a different kind of production. And the fact is, I've been working with Todd for 30 years, and I'm able, I have a shorthand with him that just makes it a lot easier for me to figure out the best path forward for him in terms of people he wants to work with. I guess, my first thing was, meeting Motto and deciding they were the right people to work with, and then it was, a lot of the logistics of working around our other production, finding, helping to find the people that, ended up shooting our live interviews, etc. I absolutely relied on Motto a lot to kind of lead the way in terms of how these things are done. But looked at a lot of cuts, talked through some of the questions with Todd, all that kind of stuff. It was a different kind of producing, but producing nonetheless.
Yeah, and so the movie doesn't have a lot of the stock and trade rock doc cliches, that it doesn't have the producer sitting in front of the soundboard talking about that one time where the cut finally went right and the magic happened. It's much more immersive. Did that idea come early? And what were your thoughts, or how did that change your job? The amount of sort of non-traditional storytelling that you guys go through.
Well, I think what was really important to Todd, and he talks about this a lot, is that he really only interviewed people who were there and part of it. Instead of doing interview after interview which we could have easily done with musicians telling you, telling the audience how much they were influenced by the Velvet Underground. I mean, Jonathan Richman does that, of course, but he does that from the point of view of really sort of being embraced by the band and seeing, upwards of 75 of their performances. So I think that once Todd sort of set that box in place, everything else kind of fell into place. And then the other part I think is really important to talk about is how much of the film is really an homage to that kind of extraordinary experimentation that was happening in cinema at that time, and how how much it tries to sort of immerse you in that world.
The film touches on some challenging subjects, as many of these types of documentaries do, but it's there's some attempt to address the treatment of women in the factory and that experience. And I mean, just being frank, I'm not breaking news to say that Lou Reed, to say the least, could be a difficult person, a violent person at times. This is well documented. How did you guys approach, being respectful of their artistic achievement? I mean, this is a movie about the Velvet Underground, not an expose about Lou Reed or something, versus making sure that those stories were told, that it wasn't just a, rosy picture.
I mean, look, I think that Todd addressed it, as in the way that he could. Is this film was never meant to be an expose on, Lou Reed's character. And I never met him. I've heard, many different things about, the kind of person he was. And I've also heard many different things about, the factory experience. So I think the fact that Todd was able to get Amy to talk about that really adds another layer, at the same time as, somebody as extraordinary as Mo Tucker, talking about her experiences. So no, I'm not going to try and defend those, I'm not going to try and defend the factory or Lou Reed. I think that, Todd presented as nuanced a portrait as he could.
I'm interested in general in your thoughts on rock documentaries as like a form. Do you watch many of them? What would you like to see more of in when folks do these films, which also I think seem to be extremely popular in the streaming era?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know that I have the authority to offer you any thoughts on rock documentaries. I mean, if you wanted my thoughts on music-driven narrative films, I could talk about Hedwig, I could talk about Velvet Goldmine, I could talk about I'm Not There.
Right.
But, I'm just a consumer. And like anybody, I love to see rock documentaries that are about bands I like and that have footage that I might not have seen in them. I mean, it's pretty, I'm afraid I don't have much more insight than that.
No, you know what? I got to say, that's what I like about them too.
Yeah. And frankly, we don't have any more authority than anybody else, but it seems as though this, the film has been well received. I mean, I was kind of wondering, probably nobody knows, but it's possible the film has been seen or will be seen in the near future by more people than ever saw the Velvets live in their, original incarnation.
Oh, my guess is that's probably already happened.
Yeah. So congratulations on that. Is there any interest either with Todd or with other filmmakers you work with in doing more of this type of work, whether it's documentary, whether it's about musicians or anything like that? Or was this really just a one-off where the stars aligned?
Well, we do. I mean, Killer does do a lot of music-driven films. It's something that we love to do. And Todd's next film is about Peggy Lee. Then that'll be another very different kind of music, but music-driven nonetheless. Would we do another music-driven doc? If it was the right circumstances and if we could bring something to the table, I mean, if we were going to do another music doc, I would go to Motto. But if Motto was going to do another music doc, I don't see why they'd come to me unless I had a specific relationship with, a creative part of what they were trying to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would definitely lobby for more Maureen Tucker. Give her own feature, because just seeing her on film, I mean, she just blows out of the screen. Amazing.
Yeah, no, she's my favorite too.
Yeah. When you talk about some of the similarities with doing music-driven films, which you have more of a track record with, what are those similarities when you're doing a rock documentary and a music-driven film? In what ways are they similar?
I think the only thing, the big thing they have in common is really a desire on our part to provide a really rich sound and music experience. I mean, I think one of the things that Todd is a little heartbroken about on Velvet Underground is that, you can't run around the world and adjust everybody's television when they watch this. Like, are they really getting, are they getting all the sound and the sort of the nuance that he worked so hard on? And the answer is probably no, So when we create these experiences on film, or in narrative film or in documentary, I think the desire to sort of make people have that kind of experience, that kind of immersive, wonderful, it's like when you go see a band you love live, and it's transporting, and that's, I think, what we're trying to do.
Well, again, congratulations. This is really an achievement. If anybody, who's listening to this hasn't had a chance to see it, it's currently on Apple Plus. I don't know if it's going to live there forever, and in theaters as well. And boy, it's really something. So congratulations to you and your whole team for this really amazing achievement.
Thank you.